Thank you. And we're live. We have been live for a few seconds. That was kind of a weird little moment, literally perfect timing. Postman just came around and dropped off a thing for us, literally as I hit the go live thing. So sorry about that. Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. This is me doing the live thing, and sometimes when you do it live, you get little silly things like that happening, don't you? A more sensible person will probably record these and make sure I can edit them and make them look good. But who's got the time? Today is what we're reviewing. And sometimes when I do the reviews, I'll look at the hits we get. And actually, it shouldn't bother me, but we get the hits. I'm doing this for myself, and so people, if they care about comic books, can watch these. But sometimes you get like a really big one, like we did Cyberpunk or Hotline Miami or Marnie's Calgar. Those kind of things like get us like loads and loads of hits. But for the most part, I prefer reviewing the small press stuff where there's not necessarily a huge amount of people who care about it, but I do, and I love this kind of thing. So I thought, you know what, let's do a big one. Let's do Marvel. Indigenous Voices Anthology. This is probably not going to get me a whole bunch of hits, but got to say, did enjoy it. Not like the greatest thing I've ever read or anything, because when you're dealing with an anthology, you're always going to have that like up and down kind of thing. And sometimes you get like quite jarring jumps in art styles, and it can be a little bit off-putting, but if you take it as an overall experience, I think the anthology is a great thing to do every once in a while. And the reason for doing the Indigenous Voices one is always kind of cool. They're trying to get people who are usually not given big jobs or great roles in large companies like Marvel a chance to actually get something get to say what they want to say. And what's really quite nice is it isn't a comic book about the Indigenous struggle. Now, don't get me wrong. I think when they were doing Wealth by Night, they did a really good job of handling that kind of thing in a really nice, subtle way, where they dealt with like current pressures of racism, or well, not necessarily racism, just jingoism and the like. But it's kind of really easy, and I think people might have been put off if they were thinking, "Oh my gosh, maybe this is just one of those like whole big woke things, and it's just going to be a bunch of people saying how hard we have it. Wouldn't it be better if they, there was no white people around?" And it's like, no. For a start, you're wrong. Secondly, that's not what this is about at all. It's actually handled really quite nicely, that it is about Indigenous characters, but it's not placing them in the role of victim. You don't have this whole, well, we would be okay, we would be in a better situation if it wasn't for the white people, although, excuse me, we'll leave you to make your own decisions on that one. The closest you get is the final story, which involves some First Strikes people basically trying to stop actual things happening at the time of the white invasion. That's the closest you get to it, and even then, they're not setting the role as victim; they're setting the role as freedom fighters, basically using some of their gifts, because this is Marvel Universe. They have magic and mutant abilities and all that kind of stuff to kind of lessen the negative impact that white settlers would have. But for the rest of it, it is just really cool stories about Indigenous characters. Sometimes it's people you don't really know about. Sometimes it's mutants. Sometimes it's famous. I think Echo is probably the only one I was really familiar with, being a Daredevil fan. She turns up a little bit in that, and she gets quite a cool story. There is an odd little guest appearance by, well, somebody. I'm not going to tell you exactly who, because, spoilers. But she ends up going off world and basically dealing with some person who thinks he's a god who's enslaved some people to make them fight for his own entertainment. And it's like, yeah, that's nothing really to, I mean, yes, there's analogies maybe, but there's nothing there which is the lived first people's experience. It just happens to be that that's a character from that world doing that thing within the Marvel Universe, and it's done well, and it's written really quite cool. I say the thing I'm not telling you is because it's a nice twist, and when it happens, it generally made me smile. And then there's an extra twist later on at the end, which involves the first twist, but in a slightly different way, and it's like, cool, that's well written. That is like that got me paying attention to it, and also the action sequences are absolutely great. I try to remember. I think it's the second story is actually my favorite of them, because it involves kind of like fairly standard mutant story, which is somebody discovering their powers, or at least using their powers but not trained, and something bad happens. And it could have gone the way of just like, well, something bad happened because he was Indigenous, but no, it was just some guy was a terrible person. I was going to swear then, and it didn't really matter the nationality of any of the people involved in it. It kind of mattered that one was a sheriff's son, and that's like got the payback for that one. But it never really came to it that the sheriff or his son was doing anything against Indigenous people because they were Indigenous. He was just a terrible person, and his father was equally terrible because he backed him up instead of actually doing something about it, the egregious law breaking. Sorry, someone just asked for the Killjoys #2 video. I've still not read it yet. It's on this weekend. And I think that's probably the biggest selling point of it. It does deal with these matters, but it doesn't do it in an over the top, this is what we want to do. This is like us on our soapbox. This is us preaching. It just tells great stories. And it also ties in quite nicely with just the other Marvel Universe stuff. You've got a great little reference to what's happening in Krakoa at the moment with the Dawn of X stuff. And it all works as its own separate thing. It doesn't have to be, this is just written for Indigenous people. It's written for Marvel fans, to be written by Indigenous people. And that's absolutely worthwhile. And it is great. Really, really is. I'm actually looking forward to the next one they're going to do. Wealth by Night was kind of cool, but it went like full on 90s. It's not really my thing. So I'm hoping the next one goes a little bit more down the route of this kind of thing, which is like way better storytelling, and I really enjoyed it. That's it for me. I'm probably not going back this weekend unless I decide to do one from home with my dog turning up again. But actually, probably going to take the weekend off, and I'll be back on Tuesday with our big unboxing thing for what's in next week. So take it easy. Bye.